Hello, everyone. Welcome to our sixth episode. I always have a blank at the very beginning. Our sixth episode of the Roofless Dog and Pony Show. My name is Julio, and I am the Dream Alchemist at Roofless Painters, and I will be the host of today's presentation, week 6 of this. Just before we start, just wanted to introduce what this is about. The Roofless Dog and Pony Show is a live, non-scripted, unedited presentation / rambling featuring the conceptual and stylistic inspiration behind our painting webinars. So what we do is we introduce the painting premise. We talk about the inspiration behind it, and we do so by mentioning some contemporary art notes, art history references, and a bit of commentary. And here's a disclaimer. We're not grammatically perfect, and we have a tendency of making up new words. So we may not be 100% intelligible, but in other words, we are up with the times. Also, we haven't triple fact-checked our sources, all of our sources. So if you know something that we missed or that we don't know, please let us know. We stand to be corrected. So we'll present a few slides and then talk about the painting webinar and its inspiration. And at the end, we're going to try to make this short, but at the end of the presentation, if there are any crickets left in the cricket gallery, we'll take questions and respond to comments, and you'll find this presentation on an Instagram post, and also you'll be able to find it in our YouTube channel. We have all of them there, plus other stuff, and we highly recommend it. So let me just introduce the assignment. The title is The State of Our Sink. The State of Our Sink. And this will be the 31st painting series of 2020. We do one painting series a week. So we are on week 31st, I guess, 31. Also, this will be the 19th painting webinar. Before we went into lockdown, we used to be able to go outside and paint with our group of people, but now we are doing it remotely. So this is week 19 of painting remotely and not in a social environment. The state of our sink, on a 2009 blog post written by contemporary artist Mike Newton. We found it just like surfing the web, and we discovered a painting by Lucian Freud that we've never seen before. The painting is titled Two Japanese Wrestlers by a Sink. And why don't I, first of all, I'm just going to bring about the cover of the painting webinar, The State of Our Sink, and the image in the cover. If I can find it. Yes, I can. This is the painting that I'm referring to. Lucian Freud, two Japanese wrestlers by a sink. And before we go into the painting, the blog post caught our attention because its main theme is the painting of Melancholia. The blog page basically gathers paintings, or gathered. It's defunct, so it's not ongoing anymore. But it gathered a collection of paintings that the author had physically seen from life, and that inspired him to think about how melancholic moments have been translated in visual art. And then he writes an essay about each of the paintings. So that's how we discovered this painting. This painting is absolutely extraordinary in many ways, and I'm going to try to dissect it before I move on to other paintings that I brought for this presentation. But first things first, in true Freud fashion, from beginning to end, this painting took him 5 years to finish. And this is a way of working that I've never seen I've never seen anyone else doing, but he painted it from life all the time. So there's running water, if you can see. So hopefully the water wasn't running all the time, but this is how he paints. He takes one subject and he spends months and months and months working on it. 5 years in the making. That alone is absolutely incredible. From 1983 to 1987. So one thing that I wanted to point out, the first thing is, if you can see, because when you hear the title and then you see the painting, your eye automatically goes in the search for the Japanese wrestlers, right? So the cropped images of the masculine figures on the upper side of the painting, they're reminiscent of the William Eggleston photograph that we talked about in past shows. And please go to our YouTube channel and you can see the rest of our shows. And one talks about that famous photograph, the red ceiling, and there were two erotic posters that peekabooed, if I can use that word, in the lower corner of that photograph. This reminds us of that in many ways. They're not taking center stage, and the images are just showing a little bit on top. So needless to say, we get how this piece fits the melancholic theme of the blog that we discovered from. There's a sense of contemplative isolation, quietness, introspection. It's an exhibit A of what a reclusive state of mind may feel like. And that's why we're doing the next painting webinar inspired by this subject, sinks, the state of our sink. It tries to be a tongue-in-cheek that combines our state of mind and the state of the union, how things are crumbling politically and socially around us. So let's talk about sinks. We use sinks every day to wash hands or pots or utensils or stuff, fumbling stuff in them constantly throughout our days, day after day. But I think we have not thought so much about how intertwined their existence and their presence and function is with our day-to-day quarantine life. And now it's the time to think about that. Also, let's talk about sinks. We feel like sinks are sexy. Yes, I said that. There's an erotic energy that perhaps runs in the subconscious. But it's hard to deny the appeal that these subjects have as painting themes. We thought we were the only ones who liked sinks, and then we started looking at sink paintings, modern and contemporary sink paintings or paintings of sinks, and there are lots of them. There's even a term, sink art, that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But yeah, so think about faucets and the shape of faucets and what they do. Think about the feel and the look of the enameled surfaces of sinks. Think about the sinuous vessel-like forms, orifices, hissing noises, fluids, and I'm just gonna leave it there. And I'm saying this for a reason. But before I say that reason, I also want to say that there's something religious in the sense about sinks, in the sense of sinks being part of rituals that we do for cleansing, and that could be any kind of cleansing, I would say. Meditating. They're almost like altar-like things or spaces or areas. There's a sacredness around them. But yeah, let's go back to the sexiness, and I'm just gonna leave it there because in our twisted minds, this is what happens, and hopefully you'll see a different layer on this painting. There are the two wrestlers on the top of the painting, but we don't know they're wrestlers. We know just because of the title, but if it weren't for the title, we would see two nude male figures. The way they're cropped, they feel like they're nude. We don't know if they're clothed or not. We know about it because of the title, but otherwise, we just don't know. So that alone, there's an erotic charge or energy right there. So the two wrestlers cropped in a very specific way, and there are two faucets, and the faucets are running water. So two and the same, and there are pipes, and I'm just gonna stop right there. But you get the picture. That's where we are going when we look at the painting, and we try to unpeel the subconscious. So after I said that, and sorry for that image, I'm just gonna bring two paintings by an Argentinian artist named Ignacio Iturria. He uses sinks as subjects in his paintings, and then what he does, he goes beyond the representational, and he adds some surreal. You can see the little figures. He adds some surreal elements to them, which I think it's kind of nice. But you can see the cars running around the sink. I love the composition and the way the sink is painted. So stylistically, this is a very good example of how we could do, or we can paint a sink. I also want to bring an image of Degas painting. Obviously, this has to do with male gaze. There's a sink, but there's also something else. And there's a figure. It's a naked figure, and she's portrayed as if she didn't know we are looking at her. I brought this up just because stylistically I feel that's a really nice example of how sinks have been used as subjects for paintings throughout, I would say, modern or recent art history, I guess. There is another painting of a sink. I'm going to talk about this group that started in the 50s in the UK. It's called the Kitchen Sink Painters, and I had no idea about them. But then let me see if I can bring that information. Yeah. So 1954, there was an article which described this group of painters that are mostly realist artists. And the article mentioned that the work takes us back from the studio to the kitchen, and described their subjects as an inventory, which includes every kind of food and drink, every utensil and implement, the usual plain furniture, and even the babies. So hence the kitchen sink painters. So the kitchen sink painters, they're considered a group of artists that celebrated everyday life of ordinary people doing ordinary things, and it's considered an example of modern social realism. And I'm going to bring another example. So I talked about the religious, the erotic aspect. I talked about the religious aspect, and also this is important to bring the social aspect, the fact that these are depictions or subjects that represent way of life. I don't know. Yeah, I think so. So this artist, the one before was Simon Quadrat, and this one is John Bradby. And they have paintings of other stuff, interiors mostly, countertops, objects, very few figures. The idea is to just remove the narrative from the scene and create a contemplative energy. I brought this just for kicks. Antonio Lopez, I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he is a contemporary hyperrealist painter. He's known for doing architectural cityscapes, mostly, of Madrid. Really interesting stuff. But I found this image of a sink, and it connects with the Lucian Freud in that contemplative, meditative, isolating energy component. Yeah, so I think that's all we got in regards of this is an artist. I didn't get the name of the artist, but that's another example of a sink painting. And let's go back to the cover, and I'll explain the proposition for this painting webinar. So if you're watching it later, or if you're watching it now, so the idea is to paint any of the sinks that we may have in our homes from life. Knowing that this may be a little bit difficult, if you think it's too complicated, we encourage you to take a picture of the sink and then use the picture as a reference. It could be a kitchen sink, it could be a bathroom sink. It doesn't have to be clean. It could be a close-up, it could be more of a general view. You could include objects in the sink or not. You can simplify it or make it as complex as you'd like, but the idea is to capture or to use the sink as subject. We recommend you take several photos of the sink if you're using photos, and then choose one that you think compositionally and light-wise may be of interest for your work. Sign up online. We have the link in our gallery and in our calendar, rooflesspainters.com. It's only $20. It's 3 hours long, 2 hours of painting, 1 hour of group critique and feedback, and we hope to see you there. Thank you.